It was one of those slow, golden Sundays when the house felt like it was holding its breath. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with Eric's aftershave drifting from the bathroom. I was knee-deep in bills and bank statements, trying to bring some order to our chaos, when my hand brushed against an envelope I didn't recognize. It was tucked behind some papers, almost like it didn't want to be found. My curiosity woke up instantly. The kind that whispers, "You shouldn't, but you will." The return address caught my eye, a real estate company I'd never heard of. My heartbeat started tapping faster as I slid a finger under the flap. The sound of tearing paper felt too loud, like I was breaking a rule I didn't know existed. Inside was a lease agreement. My eyes scanned the page, and every word hit harder than the last. Tenant, Eric Dawson. Property, Unit 504, Birchwood Apartments. My breath hitched. My husband. A second address. For a moment the room tilted. I swear it did. We owned this house. Why on earth would he need another place? I stared at his signature, dated and fresh, the ink barely faded. A cold electric wave ran through me. Questions started piling up so fast my brain couldn't keep up. For what? For who? I heard the shower turn off upstairs. My pulse jumped, my hands trembling as I shoved the papers into a magazine. I tried to steady my breathing as footsteps echoed from the hallway. Eric appeared, towel draped over his shoulders, steam still clinging to his skin. He smiled like he always did. Easy, confident, familiar. And for a split second, I almost forgot the papers hidden beneath the magazine. "Morning, babe. Coffee ready?" he asked, his voice casual, unaware. I forced my lips into a smile that didn't belong to me anymore. "Yeah," I said, "just finishing some organizing." He leaned down, kissed my cheek, and laughed softly. "You and your endless paperwork," he teased. The warmth of his skin against mine felt foreign now, a touch that suddenly carried too many lies. I watched him pour his coffee, the sound of the spoon clinking against the mug sharp as thunder in my ears. Everything looked the same, his relaxed posture, his half smile, but something inside me had already cracked. I wanted to ask him right then, to wave the envelope in his face and demand answers. But something, pride, instinct, fear, kept me quiet. So I smiled instead, even joked about the weather, playing the part of a woman who didn't just find proof of her husband's double life. As he talked about his day, I studied his every move, memorizing the calm before a storm only I could feel brewing. When he finally left the room, humming some tune under his breath, I sat there frozen, coffee cooling beside me, the walls suddenly too quiet. My eyes fell back to the magazine hiding the envelope like it was pulsing beneath the pages. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. Every instinct screamed that I shouldn't look again, but I did. The signature was his. The date was recent, and the rent, $2,800 a month. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. I pressed the papers against my chest, as if holding them tighter would make them lie. The air felt heavy, like the house itself knew. This office, once our little corner of peace, now smelled like betrayal and printer ink. My mind replayed all the late nights, the client dinners, the overnight trips he swore were exhausting. Suddenly they all made sense, or maybe they made too much sense. From the bathroom, I heard him call my name, cheerful, unsuspecting. "You okay, honey?" he asked. "Yeah," I answered, my voice steady, steadier than my heart. That's when I knew. If there was an apartment, there was a reason. And whatever that reason was, I'd find it. Not by asking, by watching, quietly, patiently, like someone who's just realized she's been living with a stranger. The next morning, the sunlight felt cruel, too bright for the kind of truth I was carrying. Eric left for work like any other day, kissing my forehead and promising to be home late. I waited until I heard his car disappear down the street before pulling the envelope out again. Birchwood Apartments. The name sat on the page like a taunt. I opened my laptop, typed the address into Google Maps, and stared at the screen as the location appeared. 15 minutes from our house. 15 minutes from me. My heart pounded like I'd just stolen something, though I didn't know what. I threw on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and told myself it was just curiosity. Not obsession, not suspicion, just curiosity. The drive felt endless, every traffic light daring me to turn back. But I couldn't. Not now. When I finally pulled up to Birchwood, it looked like the kind of place where people hid their secrets in plain sight. Glass walls, trimmed hedges, too perfect to be real. I parked across the street, watching people come and go. Young couples, a delivery guy, a woman walking her dog. Nothing looked unusual, and maybe that's what made it worse. This wasn't some cheap affair hidden in shadows. It was ordinary, comfortable, domestic. My fingers tapped the steering wheel, my pulse a drumbeat of disbelief. And then I decided I had to go in. I stepped out of the car and smoothed my hair, trying to look like someone who belonged there. My reflection in the lobby glass stared back at me, calm on the outside, chaos underneath. The concierge desk gleamed like everything else in that place, polished and indifferent. The woman behind it smiled politely, her voice pleasant. "Good morning. Can I help you?" she asked. I returned the smile I'd practiced all my life, the one that hides everything. "Hi, I'm here to drop something off for Eric Dawson, Unit 504. She started typing, her nails tapping like tiny metronomes counting down my composure. "Mr. Dawson?" she said after a moment, glancing at her screen. "Oh, yes. He's been here for almost 6 months now." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might faint right there. 6 months. While I was home folding laundry and planning dinners, he was living another life 15 minutes away. I swallowed hard. "He lives here full-time?" I managed to ask, trying to sound casual. The receptionist smiled again, unaware she'd just detonated my world. "Not always," she said lightly. "But he's here a few nights a week. Usually with a woman. Maybe you're her?" Her words sliced through the air so cleanly it almost felt graceful. I forced my lips into a smile that burned. "No," I said softly. "I'm someone else." I walked out before my voice could betray me. The air outside felt heavier, thicker, like the world knew what I'd just heard. My legs carried me back to the car, but my mind stayed in that lobby, replaying her words on an endless loop. 6 months. A woman. Maybe you're her? My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, the leather cold against my palms. I stared at the building one last time, counting the floors until I reached his, 5th, right corner, the one with the perfect view. I tried to picture what it looked like inside. Was there a coffee mug with her lipstick on it? A blanket they shared? Did he laugh there the way he used to laugh with me? The thought made my throat tighten. Every late meeting, every sudden trip, every time he claimed he fell asleep at the office. All of it lined up perfectly now, like puzzle pieces I never wanted to solve. When I finally started the engine, the sound jolted me back to life. I wasn't crying, not yet. I was too numb for that. But somewhere inside me, something small and fierce began to wake up. Not despair, not grief. Something sharper. Something that whispered, "You'll find out everything, Maya. And when you do, he'll wish you hadn't." That evening, the house felt staged, like we were both actors pretending nothing was wrong. I'd lit a candle, the same scent he always said made the place feel homey. When Eric walked in with a bouquet of roses, I almost laughed. He hadn't brought me flowers in years, and now, suddenly he did? "Roses?" I asked, forcing a smile as my stomach twisted. "What's the occasion?" He shrugged, setting them on the counter like it was nothing. You've been stressed lately. Thought you could use a little color. Color. The man had no idea how gray everything felt to me now. I thanked him, my voice sweet and steady, even though every word tasted like ash. You always know how to surprise me, I said. And I meant it, just not the way he thought. We sat down for dinner, talking about nothing. His work, the weather, a neighbor's new dog. He laughed easily, carelessly, while I memorized every word, every look. It was strange. Watching someone you love become a stranger in real time. When he finally kissed me goodnight, I let him, even though my heart had already started building walls. Later, when his breathing deepened into sleep, I reached for his phone on the nightstand. My hand didn't shake this time. The screen lit up, a glow that felt like truth waiting to be seen. His fingerprint unlocked it instantly, too easily. And then there it was, the message that changed everything. Can't wait to see you tomorrow at the apartment. The words blinked back at me, simple and cruel. The contact name read, Anna, work project. How neat, how convenient. I scrolled further, my breath catching as photo after photo filled the screen. Eric smiling in that same apartment lobby, the one I'd stood in hours before. Another picture, him and her, laughing over wine, her hand resting on his chest like it belonged there. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. I kept scrolling, even when I didn't want to. Texts about their nights, their secret, and how she loved their place. Our money, our life, our vows, all feeding his fantasy. I could feel my pulse drumming in my temples, but my fingers were calm, methodical, as if betrayal required precision. It was almost clinical now. I was studying evidence, not a marriage. Every emoji, every photo, every timestamp became a knife carving away what I thought was real. When I finally locked the phone and set it back down, I just sat there in the dark. The room felt smaller, heavier, like the air had been stolen from it. Eric stirred beside me, mumbling something about a meeting. I looked at him, the man who once promised forever, and realized that forever had already ended. Only he didn't know it yet. I didn't cry. Not then. The tears would have made it feel like loss, and what I felt wasn't loss anymore. It was clarity. I lay there beside him, listening to the rhythm of his sleep, the same rhythm I once found comforting. Now it sounded like the ticking of a clock, counting down to something inevitable. My hands were steady as I whispered to myself, "You built a second home for your lies." I turned to face the ceiling, the faint glow of the city painting thin lines of light across our room. "Now I'll make it your prison," I finished under my breath. Images ran through my mind, the apartment's pristine lobby, the flowers he'd given me, the photos of him and Anna laughing. Each one layered into something colder, sharper. I wasn't thinking of revenge yet, not exactly. It was more like restoration, balance. The universe had handed me a truth I didn't ask for, but if I had to hold it, I'd wield it. Quietly, carefully, like a weapon that didn't need to be loud to destroy. Beside me, Eric shifted, sighing softly in his sleep. I watched him, almost detached, like studying a stranger who just happened to wear my husband's face. My heart didn't race anymore. It was calm, frighteningly calm. Because deep down, I already knew. This wasn't the end of something. It was the start of a plan. The next few days felt like moving through glass, everything clear, sharp, and dangerous if I touched it wrong. Eric carried on as if nothing had changed, kissing my cheek before work, sending texts about dinner, lying with the ease of someone who'd practiced. I matched his calm perfectly. Every smile, every nod, every "I love you" was a mask I wore with precision. Meanwhile, I was making my own moves. I called Diane, my old friend, a lawyer with the kind of bite people don't see coming, and told her everything. Well, almost everything. When I sat in her office 2 days later, I brought the lease, the bank statements, and a calm I didn't know I was capable of. Diane looked at me over her glasses, the way she used to in college when I was about to make a bad decision. "Maya, this isn't just betrayal," she said. "It's theft. That rent came from your joint account. Your money, too." Her words landed heavy but not painful. They were practical, like a checklist for justice. I nodded, already one step ahead. "I want reimbursement," I told her. "And I want the lease under review. I'll end it myself." She gave me that small, proud smirk she used to save for courtroom victories. "Then we'll make it legal," she said. As I left her office, the sky was low and gray, the kind of color that makes everything look colder. Perfect, I thought. A storm was coming, and this time I'd be the one holding the thunder. By Friday, everything was set. Diane had filed the paperwork quietly, and the funds were frozen before Eric could notice a thing. When he kissed me goodbye that morning, murmuring something about a client dinner, I almost smiled at the irony. I told him I'd be visiting my sister for the weekend, my voice soft, innocent, believable. He didn't even blink. He never thought I was capable of secrets, not the kind he'd taught me to keep. That evening, I drove straight to Birchwood Apartments. The city lights shimmered in the windshield, reflections of a life he thought I'd never see. My hands didn't tremble as I met the locksmith in the lobby. "Locked out," I said with a polite smile, and he didn't ask questions. A few clicks later, the door swung open, and there it was. Their sanctuary. The air smelled like perfume that wasn't mine, and red wine left unfinished. Everything was too perfect, like they'd tried to recreate happiness and failed. Candles sat on the counter. 2 glasses half full. A photo frame with them smiling, her lipstick bright, his arm draped around her. My stomach turned, but I forced myself to take it all in. Every detail mattered now. Evidence, proof, closure. I took pictures slowly, methodically, like documenting a crime scene. Because that's what it was. A crime against trust. And I was done being the victim. When I finished taking the photos, I walked to the bedroom. Their bedroom. The sheets were smooth, freshly washed, as if he'd tried to erase the scent of what they'd done. But betrayal lingers. It clings to air, to walls, to memory. On the nightstand sat a half-burned candle, its wax hardened mid-drip. I smiled. "Perfect," I whispered. I opened my purse, took out a piece of stationery, and began to write. Not shaking, not angry, just deliberate. For rent again, because the last tenant got evicted for lying. I signed it with a lipstick kiss, bright and bold. I placed the note on the bed where he'd least expect it, centered like a headline he couldn't ignore. For a moment, I just stood there, taking in the silence of that apartment. It was beautiful in a hollow way, like a stage after the curtain falls. My reflection in the mirror looked calm, composed, almost serene. Maybe because revenge, when it's clean and quiet, doesn't feel like rage. It feels like balance. As I locked the door behind me, the hallway lights flickered faintly, reflecting off the polished floors. I didn't look back. The photo frame, the candles, the lipstick mark. They could all stay. I'd already taken what I needed, the power he thought I didn't have. Driving away, I caught my own smile in the rearview mirror, the kind you wear when you finally stop being afraid. Sunday night arrived like the calm before a storm that already knew its path. I sat in the living room, lights dim, a mug of untouched tea cooling beside me. The house was too quiet, too orderly, the kind of silence that waits for a sound to break it. When I heard his key turn in the door, I didn't move. Eric walked in humming, his jacket slung carelessly over his arm, the faint scent of cologne and guilt trailing behind him. "Hey, babe," he called out, casual as ever. "Missed you." He froze when he saw me sitting there, not smiling, not speaking, just watching. "How was your weekend?" I asked, my tone light, almost friendly. "At the apartment?" The words landed like glass shattering, sharp and impossible to ignore. His brows pulled together. "What?" he stammered. "What are you talking about?" I stood up slowly, calm and deliberate, and placed the lease on the coffee table. "You left your second address in our drawer, genius." His face drained of color, the confidence slipping from him like sand through fingers. "Maya, it's not what you think," he blurted, hands raised slightly, as if surrender could rewrite the truth. I tilted my head, studying him like a stranger. "Really?" I said softly. "Because I think it's exactly what it looks like. Rent, wine, and a woman who isn't me." The air between us turned heavy, his silence confessing more than his words ever could. He took a step forward, his voice cracking with that old rehearsed charm. "Maya, please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I almost laughed. That line, so tired, so small, coming from a man who'd built a second life. "A mistake?" I echoed, folding my arms. "A 6-month lease, Eric? Photos, dinners, her clothes in our drawers? That's not a mistake. That's an investment." His mouth opened, but no words came. Only the sound of him realizing I wasn't the same woman who once believed his excuses. I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out a new envelope. Thicker, heavier, final. "You built a home for your affair," I said, sliding it across the table. "I built a plan for my freedom." He hesitated before opening it, eyes flicking over the contents, bank statements, photos, legal papers neatly stacked. "You'll find our accounts frozen, the lease terminated, and divorce papers ready to sign." His hands trembled as he looked up at me, speechless, lost. "And Anna?" I added, my voice low but steady. "She can help you pack." He blinked, trying to piece together the ruins of his double life. I almost pitied him, almost. But then I remembered the apartment, the lies, the woman who wasn't me. Pity vanished. "You rented an apartment for love," I said, turning toward the door. "I rented my peace." And with that, I walked past him, light as air, the sound of his silence following me all the way out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. The quiet thud as it closed behind me said everything that was left unsaid. Outside, the night air was crisp, honest in a way he never was. I stood on the porch for a moment, letting the cool wind wash over my skin, clearing away the last traces of his touch. My hands were steady, my pulse calm. It felt strange, realizing freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through the cracks of everything that once hurt you. As I walked to my car, I could still picture him standing in the living room, holding that envelope like it was a verdict. Maybe it was. I didn't care anymore. For years I had cleaned up his messes, softened his edges, explained away his distance. But tonight, I'd handed him the mirror and let him face himself. The liar, the coward, the man who thought I'd never find out. The kind of man who built his own downfall one secret at a time. When I started the car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired, yes, but lighter. My life wasn't ending. It was just shedding its dead weight. As the house disappeared behind me, a strange calm settled in. There would be no going back, and that didn't scare me anymore. If he'd built a second home to hide from the truth, I'd build mine to live in it. And that, I realized, was my revenge. 6 months later, I stood in front of a tall white building with sunlight glinting off its windows. My new beginning reflected right back at me. The ocean wasn't far. I could smell the salt in the air, feel the softness of a breeze that carried no memory of him. My realtor, a cheerful woman with bright eyes, handed me the keys with a smile that felt like a benediction. "Congratulations, Ms. Dawson. she said. Then she hesitated, glancing at the paperwork. Or should I say, Ms. Pierce? Ms. Pierce, I replied, smiling. The name rolled off my tongue like freedom itself. I liked how it sounded. Unclaimed, untangled, mine. As she left, I lingered at the doorway, the keys warm in my hand. The apartment smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Sunlight poured through the wide windows, spilling across the bare floor where I'd soon unpack my life, piece by piece, the way you rebuild after the storm has passed and the air feels new again. I set the boxes down one by one, each labeled not with things, but with choices. Keep. Let go. Start over. The quiet was different here. Not heavy, not watchful, just kind. I took a slow breath, letting it fill me all the way to the ache that had lived in my chest for months. This was mine. Every inch, every sound, every heartbeat of space that didn't echo his name. I wandered through the rooms barefoot, my footsteps soft against the polished floor. The kitchen still smelled like new wood and lemon cleaner, untouched, waiting. On the counter sat a single coffee mug, one I'd bought just for me, printed with the words, "Start fresh." Simple, maybe even cliché, but it made me smile anyway. I opened the window, letting the ocean air rush in, cool and forgiving. For the first time in years, I didn't have to measure my breathing around someone else's moods. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I walked over to the living room, where a small sign leaned against the wall. The first thing I'd chosen for this place. In bold letters, it read, "This home was built on honesty." I hung it above the window where the sunlight hit just right, watching it glow in gold. The words weren't decoration. They were a promise, not just to any future guest, but to myself, that I'd never again mistake comfort for love or silence for safety. Somewhere deep down, I felt that version of me, the one who once whispered, "I'll find out." Exhale. She'd done it. She'd survived the truth, walked through the fire, and come out clean. I touched the edge of the sign, steady and proud, as if sealing the vow with my own hands. This place wasn't just an apartment. It was proof that endings can be beautiful when you write them yourself. I made myself a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the balcony. Below, the ocean shimmered in the late afternoon light, waves folding over themselves like soft applause. I leaned against the railing, breathing in the scent of salt and freedom. It struck me how life can collapse in one moment and still rebuild in another stronger shape. I wasn't mourning anymore. I was expanding. The pain had burned everything false away, leaving only what was true. The wind lifted my hair as I whispered, "He rented a place for his lies. I bought one for my new beginning." The words felt right, not bitter, not vengeful, just real. Somewhere out there, he was probably learning to live without control, maybe even reading the legal papers one last time. But that wasn't my story anymore. My story was here, in this sunlight, this quiet, this space that finally belonged to me. I walked back inside, closed the balcony door and turned the key in the lock, not to keep anyone out, but to claim what was mine. The apartment felt alive, filled with promise, the echo of my own footsteps soft but sure. I set the mug on the table, smiled at the sign on the wall, and whispered to the empty room, "Welcome home, Maya." And for the first time in years, I meant it.